In the center we have Oren Lyons, and Lauren, who is one of the Faith Keepers. Lauren Chile is the curator to the Cayuga Museum here. We have Tadadava Sid Hill, Faith Keeper Tony Gagne, Irv Lyons on that side, and Clan Mother Wendy Gagne. And I will let you take it from here.
So thank everyone for being here, for the media for coming and covering this. We up here obviously feel that this is a very important story and event, so we're happy to have you here covering it as well. My name is Lauren Kyle. I'm the curator here for the Cayuga Museum, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on how we ended up here today and how this process has kind of gone about. I've been with the museum for about 3 years now, and early on, when I was hired there, we began a discussion about putting together a permanent Haudenosaunee exhibit here at the museum. And part of that was going into the collection and looking at the objects that we had in the collection here. And in doing that work, we discovered that we had some objects, some masks, and some wampum bands that the museum could not ethically display. They were things of cultural significance to the Haudenosaunee, and they were not things that we would have been able to use. So I actually reached out to Irv here, we'd become close through some different professional avenues and became good friends, and I reached out to him, who then brought Oren into the conversation, and the two of them came and we spent an afternoon going through these objects and looking at these objects and discussing the options and what the museum could do with them. And so from there, just this past summer, I took the objects and went to Longhouse, where I met everyone else that you see up here, and we again continued discussing the masks and the wampum and where they came from, what could we do with them. And it was at that point that we decided that repatriating to the Onondaga Nation would be the best avenue for us here at the museum. Many of these things in the collection do not have really great provenance and records that go with them, so we felt that returning them to the center of the Haudenosaunee Nation would be the best place for them.
The history of wampum is really as old as our Confederacy, and our Confederacy is, right now they're zeroing in on circa 930 AD. They're using the information about what was happening in the heavens at the time and so forth to calculate. But to say we're very old confederation. And wampum was essentially the beginning of everything. Its proper name is Coan. Wampum is a term that I think comes from the East Coast, and we've used it from the beginning. It holds our treaties, it holds our histories, it's used contemporarily. We use it right today, all the time, within the Six Nations, within the traditional system of the Six Nations. And so returning and receiving these belts back are very, very important to us. As you know, museums have cultural things which are not a problem with us. Bows and arrows and canoes and what all, and other cultural things, but the significance of some of our work needs to be back in our hands. And the masks that were here are part of that, and it's still used contemporarily now. We continue our ceremonies the way we did the past 1,000 years. And so we put these things back to work. They get back into activity. And it's been a long story, and we won't go into that, but the repatriation has been a very significant change in the whole history of museums and museum technology and also policy. And we worked very hard in that 1990, 88, 89, 90, and we finally got the Repatriation Act. And since that time, we received a lot of wampum back. so this is very important, and we appreciate so much the fact that museums step forward and offer that. And we're working with the Syracuse Historical Association as well, and they have, as you know, returned bells and these objects of importance to us. And so in this particular instance, the belts has been returned. We're going to return a facsimile that Tony Gagne here at the end has recreated the process of weaving these belts. They're not done on a loom. It's not a loom. It's an old system. And he has figured that out. And so we have recreated this facsimile to come back to the Auburn Museum, which you can have and which will be on display. And so I would like Tony to talk a little bit about what it takes to you know, he's good at it.
Well, when we make these are they're not on a loom, but I hook up maybe 3 of them together, and they're all weaved in individually. So we put a knot on one side.
Can you hold it up, Tom?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You gotta. Oh.
Thank you.
But when you make these, you tie a knot on one end, and you have to, because it's on sinew, and when you open it up, pull the leather through, pull it tight, put the bead through one, and then open the leather up, or open the bead up, pull the leather through, pull the bead tight so the bead goes through the line, and then continuously open the leather up, pull the bead through, pull the bead tight, continue all the way across, turn it, come all the way back. It'll be like a little X on one side, you'll see on some of these. And that's how when you look at the original way we made belts, you can see that same thing on the end. But they'd open up like sinew, or pull the leather through, pull the bead tight so it's through. Sinew is going through the bead, and then open it up, and then just continuously back and forth, back.
We're very excited to have the replica here in the collection, and it will definitely be a centerpiece of the new exhibit as we put it together. We're in the planning process of all that now, but then having things like this in the museum and in the collection and in exhibits also opens up an opportunity for dialogue about issues like this, and things that have happened in the past with collecting Native objects, and the repatriation process, and why we do and do not display certain things. So it's great to have this as a teaching tool as well as an actual object in the collection. And I would like to quickly recognize 3 of our board members who helped us make the decision to do the repatriation. We have Ellen Delastrito, Paul Lattimore, and Sheriff Gould, David Gould, here with us. So if anyone has questions for them too later, they are here.
Is it relatively an exact replica of what you? Okay.
Yep.
beads are made from quahog shell from the ocean, and both the white and the purple. Now, back in the old days, they were very large clams. There was a lot of heavy purple. Now, if you go to the ocean, you'll find them, but they're quite much smaller, so you have to work a lot harder. These are not
Ceramic.
They're ceramic.
they're ceramic, but they're very close to the reality of the original beads. And this was coming from a grave, so we don't know exactly the content or the meaning of the belt itself at this point. It may surface later on. We may find a description of that, or somebody remembers that, but we have many, many belts. And the process was picked up by all of the colonizers. The colonies learned very quickly how to use the belts and how to make their own. They made belts, they exchanged them, and it was the process of governance all the way up to the first president of the United States made a huge belt called the 1794 Canandaigua Treaty Belt. That was made by George Washington. So the first president of the United States was making belts. In other words, we were very familiar over the 300, 400 years of our interaction with them and our process of not only governments but protocol. And that's where your United States evolved from. They evolved from that protocol. And we were old. They knew us, we knew them by name. But there was a meeting in, say, the 18th century, 19th century, there was a meeting. One of our leaders or leaders would have to be there, whether it's on the East Coast, whether it's in Maine, whether it's in Georgia. The influence of the Haudenosaunee was up and down the whole coast, along with all of the colonies. That's why we have the first treaty with the United States, 1776. Treaty of Fort Pitt. That was made 1775. And from there on, there was just a continuation of what we were doing before. We had treaties with Queen of England, Queen Anne in 1701. So it's a long process, and the process of governance and protocols is what transferred over to your country. And the meeting that we had in 1775 in Albany, New York, prior to your revolution, where they had asked us to join in the fight, our leaders said, we know your father. We know your father very well. We know you as well. And anyone knows it's not a good idea to step into a family fight. And they said, good, because that was our second request. If you were not going to fight with us, don't fight against us. And so that treaty was a treaty of neutrality. And it was tried very hard. I don't want to go through the whole course of history, but basically the Mohawks fought heavily on the side of the English, and the Oneidas and Tuscaroras fought heavily on the side of the colonies. But most of this knowledge you don't have, but we do. But it's going to be disseminated. We're working on the history to get it out so you understand how this all came about over a period of years. But that process that you see there is very, very old. And that was our library, you would say. And so these great belts made of treaties of peace, of history, whatever it was, strings, it was well known to the colonies. And the first president of the Continental Congress, John Hancock, the first thing he did was make a belt. So your first two leaders in this country made wampum belts. That's why it's important. And it's important for really important now to begin the process in places like museums and arenas of sort where we can begin to disseminate this information better. Value it. Much better. I'd just like to thank the museum again for and for allowed only the federally funded museums are subject to that law, so it was a big gesture from the museum because they didn't have to do this. And, we really appreciate that to get our things back so our ancestors can rest again on their journey. So really appreciate what you've done, and hopefully this would be a big trend there's a lot of history, and this helps to bring out that history of the people and our people together through the years on early contact. So we need, our people need to know that, your people need to know that, how that went. You know, and some of it's not good. You know, it's not a good history, but it's there, and we need to know it. It's part of how our relations develop. So we appreciate from the museum what they've done there.
I just like to say it's very gratifying to have those items that were taken from our ancestors returned to us. Maybe we're on the road to a better history today, so you have to thank you.
Events like this occur when there's a catalyst or something happens, and that's what happened between my nephew here, Irving Lyons, and they got together, and from that discussion, it winds up like this, which is courage on their part, I would say, and excellent start. Just, I think, the work that you've done on the building here, your museum itself, is extraordinarily important. And to value history, I mean, that's just important. And in today's times, people more don't look ahead and they go behind. You know, they kind of live for the moment right now. So it's up to the community, and it's up to the elders, so to speak, to maintain that integrity and to, you know, to carry it on, because people are so involved in day-to-day living now. They don't see either way. And so events like this are rich, powerful, and we appreciate that. We'll keep contact here.
Does anybody else have any other questions from our?
How do you know when you guys got these items into your collection? How long they've been there?
Better part of 50 years,
Better part
probably.
of 50
Yeah,
years.
a long time.
Do you know how they came to be here? Or just
No, that's part of the lost provenance, and hence the issues that we you know, with these objects, that we did not have great records. Oren alluded to this, record keeping and the process of collections management and things like that for museums has grown leaps and bounds over the past 30, 40 years. Record keeping, provenance, tracking, numbering, all of these kinds of things have improved exponentially. Our museum's been here for 76 years now. And unfortunately, when they started, they didn't have those same practices. So it's something that we're digging through and working on.
This belt you said was in a grave?
The original, yes.
Yes, and there was another waffle belt too, was that also?
There was a smaller, it was labeled as an armband in our records that came from the same site, yes.
And then the other objects were all masks?
Yes.
And then they were returned this past summer?
Yes, everything went back to the Onondaga, to the nation earlier this summer, and then Tony explained this long painstaking process of making the belt, which took him till now, till now to have finished. So.
Tony, how many months did this actually take you?
It averaged roughly an hour and a half or maybe 2 inches. But you can work it on constants because it's a lot of and sitting up and can't lay back. You gotta sit up and do it, so it.
And remember, going into the original time, those beads were drilled by hand, one bead at a time. So you can imagine what it takes just to work them through.
So you can tell the difference between the older bead and the ones that were produced on manufactured with machines, they were kind of drilled from each end. So you can really tell the difference between the ages and what they use on the belt. Probably the color too, with the bigger bullhog shells, it was probably easier to drill from the having more product from the shell itself to work with.
And the major difference between this belt and the original is that the color in this one is much stronger. The wampum, especially when they've been in the ground, will lose a lot of their color. They get very chalky. So the color in this is much brighter and closer to what the original would have been than the actual